Right, well, welcome back to our third RDC lesson at level 2. We're working through our plan for future direction. This is standard 10781, and this is for 3 level 2 credits, and in my opinion a really great assessment, one that should be taught at every school, but it's not. You guys spent the last 2 lessons going through the first part of this booklet, and the idea is to build a personal profile of yourself. We're trying to paint a picture of where we're at, who we are in terms of our interests and our skills. You've got to imagine that if you decided to leave school tomorrow or even at the end of the year, these are the sorts of things that whether you're going to university, whether you're going to a work or some sort of job, these sorts of things are really important. And as especially in this current climate where a lot of people are going to be out of work and then looking for work once this coronavirus is all over, it's a really competitive market out there. You've got to have what it takes, but you've got to have what is required of you. And so you need to be able to really dig deep in this situation and look at the skills that you have, and they come from all sorts of places. You'd be surprised the sorts of skills that you have that you don't even realize you have. So if you've struggled at this point here, it's worth asking people around you. You know, there's people who, and it's probably worth at this stage also remembering the Jahara window that we drew, looking at the 4 windows of who we are. And there's that one window which represents the things that others know about us that we don't know about us. And that sometimes is about reflecting the not so good habits and behaviors that we possess. It's also the good things that we have that we don't recognize or want to give ourselves credit for. And so therefore it is a matter of asking other people what they think. That can sometimes be an uncomfortable conversation, but it's a necessary one, and it's something you have to get used to as you start to really promote yourself going forward. When you're basically going for a job or asking an educational institution or the Defence Force, when you're asking them to accept you, they're going to ask you, why should they? What is it about you that means that you would be ahead of somebody else? What makes you special? And building this profile is what that's all about. We're going to move on to work interests today. So we want to start thinking about the things that you think you're interested in, and for some of you, you've got it set in stone in your head what you want to do. And I've already said to you guys, I also had it set in stone what I wanted to do when I left school, but that does change, and it's important that you leave your options open at this stage. You might leave school and find yourself, working as a plumber, and then a couple of years later, you could find yourself in a completely different industry. The world is your oyster, but you've got to have a plan. You've got to know what you're good at. You've got to know what you're not good at as well. And that can sometimes be a bit of a hard journey as well, just acknowledging there's some things we're not so good at, but it's also really good to celebrate and acknowledge what you are good at. And when we look at work interests, it's actually 2 sorts of things involved in this. There's the types of work, but there's qualities of work. Okay, so it's the qualities of work that come out of certain jobs. So certain jobs offer things like the idea of self-employment. That's a quality of a job. Self-employment means that you're your own boss. It means that you choose your own hours. It means you've got a lot more control over your life. But the downside of that is that you don't always get paid. You've got to be motivated. You've got to get up in the morning. You've got to do the mahi to get the treats. And whereas other jobs, you get paid every week, same. Some jobs, the qualities of the jobs offer problem solving. They offer you responsibilities, regular routine. There's variety, chance for promotion. So you've got to think, what are the things you actually want out of your job? And we think we call these the qualities of work. Yeah, the lesson today is not going to be a long one, because actually at the end of this, I'm going to give you guys a task I really need from you, and it's going to be so I can look at the work you've done so far. But first of all, let's go through this. We're going to be thinking about the type of work you're interested in and the qualities of work that best suit you. If you are unsure, ask yourself the following questions. What types of work experience have I done so far, and how do I feel about the type of work I did? So For example, when I was 15, I did some building labouring work during the school holidays. My dad dropped me off at a building site. I pretty much just moved building rubbish from one place to the next, and I got paid. How did I feel about it? It didn't make me want to be a builder. I enjoyed the money because it was suddenly I had a heap of money, whereas before that I didn't. But in terms of the work, I did not enjoy it. It was just the same thing over and over again. It's I mean, some people like that, but for me, it wasn't my cup of tea at all. What other work experience would I like to do, and why? So this is the point where you've got to think, what are some of the things I need to do, and why do I need to do those things? Why is it important for me to have those things in my kitty of work experience? So that's something you need to think about. Do I like to work under pressure? So do I prefer to work as part of a team or alone? What other qualities of work do I like? Well, the other thing we need to start looking at here is, do I like to work under pressure? Do I prefer to work as part of a team or alone? What other qualities of work do I like? So this is a really important thing. Some people really do not like to work under pressure. It makes them anxious. It just makes you panic, and it can be quite an uncomfortable daily experience. You got to think hard about that one. Do I prefer to work as part of a team or alone? Another really important one. I know a lot of people who work on their own. They have their own business set up at home, and they're quite comfortable not having a team around them. They don't mind their own company. Whereas there's other people who need to be around others, and I'm probably more in this camp where I really like to work with people, bounce ideas off each other, just a different energy. Your work interests are different to your personal interests, and personal interests relate to things you enjoy doing, such as listening to music or going out with your friends. Work interests relate to things you enjoy doing as part of your work, such as using computers, talking with customers, and so on. For others, it might be working with your hands, building things, making things. Those are the sorts of things you've got to start to think about. You might really enjoy you might be a really active person and find exercise and being, just pushing yourself in that sort of area is your cup of tea. And so therefore you might think about being outdoors. You might think about something that keeps your heart rate up, like being a personal trainer, working at a gym. You've got to think along those lines as well. Just reading this one here now. I did work experience. Just looking at this one here now. I did work experience on a dairy farm a few months ago. I liked working outdoors, enjoyed taking care of the stock. The variety of work meant each day was different, which kept me interested and motivated. This one here says, I would like to work in an area that involves helping people to stay fit and healthy. I'd like a job where I can be active all day, such as being a personal trainer at a gym. So as you can see, for this one, it's that work experience does give you an idea of if there are things you absolutely don't want to do, or is there things in the work you've done before that are actually quite interesting, and you want those options in whatever you do in the future. So let's take a look at a task for today. Think about the types of work you might be interested in. Also consider the qualities of work that would suit you. If you can't think of any skills, ask yourself the following questions. What types of jobs sound interesting to me? And what would make my ideal job interesting and fun? They haven't given you much space for that. So fill that in, but if you need more space, you can use the sides of the pages here. Work experience. Your work experience includes the work that you're doing now and work that you've done in the past. Think about places where you have worked and what you did there. This could include paid work or unpaid work. And I can relate to this. I worked at Woolworths, or what is it now, Countdown. That was one of my first jobs. I used to work at Little Orbit Donuts outside the warehouse in Glenfield. Lots of little jobs. But to be honest, what I can honestly say to you about those jobs is that they were all for money. But what I did take from them is that I had good people skills. I was able to relate to people. You have to have good customer service skills. And I realized that whatever I do, it has to be interactive just through those jobs. But essentially, I came away thinking I never want to work at a supermarket again. When you work as a volunteer, you don't get paid. Example, regular baby or child minding, so babysitting, working for volunteering for a community group. I used to work at the Salvation Army, so I did some work there as a youth worker, so that was all unpaid. If you haven't had a job yet, have you done volunteer work, or what types of jobs have you done for family and friends? That might be, for example, you've cut your granddad's hedge. Did you enjoy that? What do you think you enjoyed about it? And here are some questions to help you identify the different experiences of work that you've had. I'm not going to read those because the time is getting on us a bit. So I'm going to leave you at this for today. Let's look at your work experience. Brainstorm your ideas about the different types of work that you have done. Include any work that you do now. Remember, this can include any type of regular unpaid work. So this is like, fill this up. Okay, this is helping granddad. This is helping mum. This is, in the backyard, down to working for a church group. This is, helping crisis relief, going to a hospital, going to an old folks home. It's working at your mate's dad's mechanic. There's so many things you can put in here, team. So if you get a mind blank, just go back to the questions again, reread those, just kind of spark this up. Just so you know, when you do your assessment, it's going to ask you to do this again. And so you need to really make sure that you're ready and that you're starting to get this in practice. The last part I want to do, and we're not going to go achievements, but I would like you just to work through this last part here, education and training. I'm not going to explain it too much. Reason being is that this is you now, okay? This is you in high school. So we just want to also briefly look at where you've studied and trained. And for a lot of you, you're going to have 2 high schools now that you're at Vanguard and you've come from another high school. But if you've done any other sorts of training, then please include those.